Hi, welcome to the Halstead Jewelry Minute, where today we have Katie Hacker back in the studio. Thanks for joining us, Katie.
Hey, thanks for having me, Hilary. Hi, everybody.
We're so excited to have you here. Today, Katie's going to be telling us different ways to finish the ends of your beaded jewelry creations. So Katie, let's talk about crimping.
Okay, so where you get started there are two different types of crimps. There's a crimp bead, which is a round seamless bead, and there's a crimp tube. So the difference with that is obviously the shape. A bead is going to be less obtrusive in your design, so if you're doing like an illusion design or something like that where you want bead stations, you can use a bead. But I use crimp tubes when I'm attaching a clasp or anything that's going to be weight bearing because it has more surface contact.
Okay, it's a little more secure.
That's right. You'll also need a crimping tool, and there are different sizes, so choose the one that fits with your beads. Then we're also going to talk a little bit about a cable thimble or wire guardian, which protects the wire where it touches a clasp or other metal. And then crimp covers, and those are in different sizes, and they're not required, but they're kind of required. Once you start using them, you're going to fall in love with them because they look great.
They do.
Yeah, so how you attach a crimp is just slide it onto the wire, and then you'll take your wire through either the clasp, or I'm just going to attach it to a piece of chain here because I have this great beaded focal section. So I'm also going to use a protective thimble or guardian here at the end. And what it is a hollow tube that you place the wire through, and it's in a little U shape just to protect that wire at the clasp.
And that helps with abrasion at the end of your necklace, right?
That's
Over
right.
time.
That's right. Then you can slide either your clasp or your chain, in this case, onto that. And I already have my crimp here threaded on. So now I'm just going to pass that over both wires. Now something really important here is to make sure your wires aren't crossing.
Oh, okay.
Right? We never want to get our wires crossed.
Don't cross your wires.
Or in jewelry. That's right. So they should be exiting parallel. And then you're going to use your crimping tool. It has two different jaws, the outer and the inner jaw. So first we'll use the outer jaw. I'm just going to snug everything together here a little bit. And we'll use the outer jaw to make it oval. And then we'll use the inner jaw to make a crease. And I always just take a minute to check and make sure that my wires are on separate sides because it keeps them separate. Then you're going to turn it, press your outer jaw together to round that over.
Okay.
So, this looks fine, but it's kind of utilitarian, right? So let's dress it up with a crimp cover. And at this point, you're just choosing one that is going to look good in your design. So I'm going to take the big one and place it over my crimp.
And that's a great point. The size is more a design question than matching the size of your crimp.
That's right.
So
as long as it will, when it's closed, your crimp won't slide out, then you're okay.
Great.
And then you can use your outer jaws on the crimping tool, or you can use a nylon jaw plier to close this up and make it nice and round.
Excellent.
And then I would just slide all my beads down. And a lot of people leave a little bit of extra wire here. I don't, because I feel like it always sneaks out and pokes me.
Yeah.
So I just trim it off. It's not giving you any extra security. The only reason you would need it there is if you end up having to restring.
Right.
And if that is happening, you have bigger problems.
Yeah, you do. You have bigger problems. Well, that looks great.
A little lesson on crimping.
Okay, nice work, Katie. So Katie, leather and rubber cord is so popular these days. Let's talk about ways to finish the ends on those pieces.
It is so easy. All you need is a little bit of glue and chain nose pliers. So always choose the end cap based on the size of the cording that you're using. So internal diameter on your end cap should match the diameter of the cord. And then this is a crimp end. So all you do is place your little drop of glue, put it over the end, and then it has a spot in the middle that's like a crimp bead, but in this case you just squeeze it together with your chain nose pliers. And that's going to hold it nice and securely on the end of your cord. And I love these because they come in so many different styles and they look designer.
They do.
They really have some flair. Now, if you're looking for something simpler, you can also use this style of end cap. Same idea, you just fit it over the end with a little bit of glue inside, and then you can use your chain nose, or you can even use the outer jaws on your crimping tool to just squeeze that together a little bit and make sure that it's nice and secure. Then you're ready to attach a clasp. It's easy.
Fantastic. Okay, now let's go over clamshells and bead tips.
All right, so this is a great way to finish your knotted designs. There's also one little secret I'm going to tell you in a sec. So what you do is you choose which type you want. A bead tip has just a cup with a little hook on it. A clamshell has two parts that close over.
And cover that knot.
And cover the knot at the end of your design. And the reason you would use this is because then you don't have to tie your thread directly to the clasp. You have a piece of metal there. And that's helpful both for switching out the clasp later if you choose to, and also just because it's a more substantial way to finish.
Yeah.
So what you'll do is tie a knot in the end of your cord. This is a pretty thick beading silk, and I just tied an overhand knot. Now I'm going to just pass it through the hinge portion of my bead tip or clamshell. And the thing to pay attention to here is that you want to make sure that it is not going to slip through.
Oh, okay.
You have to make your knot big enough that it won't slip through.
Or even double knot sometimes, right?
That's right. You can also tie a little knot and have a seed bead there or a smaller bead that will settle inside. So there it is, knot inside of my clamshell, and then cording extending out what I would consider the back side.
Okay.
And then that's going to make it easy to attach to your clasp. So now I'm ready to just start my knotting. So I'll string my pearl on here just so you can see how it would look at the end. There you go. And then I would add a little bit of jeweler's cement and trim this cording down. Now you can also use bead tips and clamshells with beading wire. So for example, I have my bead-along wire here, and maybe I'll just go ahead and cut my piece. And then what you would do is thread your clamshell or bead tip on. Then on the inside of that, you're going to wrap it around your crimp. So crimp bead on the wire, and then rather than crimping it right here, I need a little bit of extra security. So I'm going to pull that back through the bead and then flatten it or crimp it, place it inside my bead tip. Same thing there, it gives you the option to change out your clasp or make multiple strands where you really want to make sure that they lay well or they're graduated. Then you can make all of your strands ahead and then attach them to the clasp when you're finished.
Right, and you can really tuck a lot inside that little bead tip. It's surprising how well it all sinks right in.
That's right, and it gives you a really professional finish.
It does. Great, thank you, Katie. You'll find all these supplies and more on halsteadbead.com. Thanks so much for joining us, Katie.
Thanks for having me.